Britain created the world's largest empire without gold, silver, or real money at all. For 300 years, the British Empire was built on sophisticated monetary deception so elegant that most never realized they were being robbed, so effective that it conquered a quarter of the globe, so flawed that it destroyed the empire it created. The pound sterling was never backed by sterling silver. The Bank of England never had enough gold to support its currency. British sound money was the greatest financial fraud ever perpetrated. Every monetary deception faces reality. Britain's came in waves. Napoleonic Wars revealed the first cracks. World War I shattered the illusion. And Black Wednesday, 1992 delivered final humiliation when George Soros bet against the Bank of England and won. Today, the pound represents less than 5% of global reserves, down from 80%. The empire that conquered through monetary manipulation died by the same mechanism. The original sin, the Bank of England's birth 1694. The Bank of England wasn't created to serve the British people. It was created to solve a specific problem: how to fund an expensive war against France without raising taxes or selling royal assets. The solution was so audacious that it changed the nature of money forever. William Paterson's revolutionary fraud in 1694. William Paterson approached King William III with an extraordinary proposal. Wealthy merchants would lend the government £1.2 million equal to England's entire annual tax revenue. In exchange, they would receive 8% annual interest paid forever, exclusive right to issue banknotes, and government backing for their currency. The revolutionary aspect: the principal would never be repaid. The lenders could use the government SIOU as collateral to create additional money by issuing banknotes to the public. Paterson invented central banking. Private financiers create money backed by government debt, then collect interest from taxpayers on money that never existed until they created it. The Goldsmith Banking Foundation. The bank formalized practices. London goldsmiths developed throughout the 1600s. Goldsmiths stored gold for merchants, issuing receipts that circulated as payment. But they discovered they could issue more receipts than they had metal, because most customers never redeemed receipts simultaneously. This fractional reserve system allowed creating money from nothing. Paterson's bank elevated goldsmith banking to sovereign level, backing currency with government debt rather than gold holdings. The first central bank powers. The bank received unprecedented powers: monopoly on note issuance, authority to create money through bond purchases, legal tender status, government backing, and taxpayer bailout guarantee. These powers created the template for every modern central bank: private ownership with government backing, money creation through debt monetization, taxpayer liability for losses. The Napoleonic test, the first fiat experiment 1797 to 1821. The Napoleonic Wars provided the first real test of the Bank of England's monetary system. The war costs were so enormous that traditional funding methods, taxation and borrowing, proved insufficient. Britain faced a choice: accept defeat or abandon metallic money entirely. They chose monetary deception on an unprecedented scale. The restriction period begins. On February 26, 1797, the Bank of England stopped converting banknotes to gold. The restriction period began Britain's first fiat currency experiment. The immediate cause was French invasion panic, but the deeper cause was war spending exceeding Britain's wealth. The restriction was presented as temporary. It lasted 24 years. Inflation and imperial expansion. Without gold conversion, the bank could create unlimited money for government spending. Inflation reached 30%. Food prices doubled. Wages couldn't keep pace. But the government had unlimited funding for military operations, impossible under metallic money constraints. Ordinary subjects paid through inflation, while government contractors and financial institutions, receiving newly created money profited. The gold standard mythology. British economists developed sophisticated theories justifying paper money expansion during the restriction period. David Ricardo argued that money supply increases were necessary to accommodate growing trade and economic activity. These theories created the foundation for modern monetary economics, the idea that professional money managers could improve on gold standard. Barbarism through scientific currency management. But the theories ignored a fundamental reality. Someone always profits from monetary expansion, and someone always pays the cost. In Britain's case, ordinary subjects paid through inflation, while the government and connected financial interests profited from cheap credit. Return to gold 18-1. Britain returned to the gold standard in 1821 after Napoleon's defeat, but the restoration was largely cosmetic. The Bank of England had learned it could manipulate gold flows, time currency conversions, and manage public confidence to maintain paper money circulation even with gold convertibility. The return to gold provided credibility for international trade while preserving central bank discretion for domestic monetary policy. Britain appeared to have sound money while retaining the ability to create money from nothing when convenient. The Victorian illusion, imperial expansion through monetary manipulation. The Victorian era appeared to demonstrate British monetary stability. The reality was sophisticated manipulation that funded imperial expansion while creating sound money illusions. Gold discoveries in California 1849 and Australia 1851 provided real metal to support expanded paper money creation. Britain used this strategically, managing gold flows to maintain control while funding imperial expansion impossible under strict metallic standards. British imperial expansion relied on currency manipulation throughout colonial territories, imposing sterling-linked currencies that extracted real wealth while providing paper claims that could be devalued at British discretion. World War I. The monetary mask slips 1914 to 1925. World War I exposed the fundamental weakness of Britain's monetary system. War costs were so enormous that even sophisticated manipulation couldn't hide underlying insolvency. Britain officially remained on gold but secretly suspended convertibility. The deception maintained international confidence while enabling unlimited war financing. Unlike previous wars funded through monetary expansion, WWI required massive borrowing from America. Britain transformed from world's largest creditor to major debtor in 4 years. Churchill's catastrophic decision 1925 Chancellor Winston Churchill returned Britain to gold at pre-war parity of $4.86 per pound, overvaluing sterling by 25%. British exports became uncompetitive. The economy entered deflation. Unemployment soared. Churchill later called it the biggest mistake of my life. The 1931 sterling crisis, the end of British monetary hegemony. The sterling crisis of September 1931 marked the definitive end of British global monetary leadership. Week, centuries of carefully constructed monetary prestige collapsed under speculative pressure. The final gold standard abandonment on September 21, 1931, Britain abandoned the gold standard permanently. The decision came after massive gold outflows that threatened to drain the Bank of England's reserves completely. The immediate trigger was European banking crises that created flight to gold. But the deeper cause was fundamental British economic weakness that gold standard membership had disguised for decades. Sterling depreciated 25% immediately after leaving gold. The devaluation provided temporary relief for British exporters but permanently damaged sterling's credibility as a reliable store of value. The imperial currency collapse, Britain's abandonment of gold, forced colonial and dominion currencies to choose between following sterling into devaluation, or maintaining gold convertibility. Most chose to follow sterling, creating the sterling area of currencies linked to a depreciating pound. The sterling area provided some protection for British trade and investment, but represented a retreat from global monetary leadership to regional currency management. Britain could no longer set global monetary standards. The American Opportunity Sterling's 1931 collapse created the opening for American monetary leadership. The United States remained on gold, while Britain embraced managed currency depreciation. American monetary stability attracted international capital flows that had previously gone to London. The dollar began displacing sterling in international trade and finance, a process that accelerated throughout the 1930s. Black Wednesday, 1992, the final humiliation. Black Wednesday represented the ultimate humiliation of British monetary policy. A single private investor successfully betting against the entire British government and central bank. The European exchange rate mechanism trap. Britain joined the European exchange rate mechanism in October 1990, committing to maintain sterling within specific trading bands against other European currencies. The decision was motivated by political rather than economic considerations. The ERM required Britain to maintain sterling at artificially high levels that made British exports uncompetitive. But withdrawal would represent political defeat and European integration failure. George Soros and the sterling short. Hungarian-American investor George Soros recognized that sterling's ERM membership was unsustainable. British interest rates were insufficient to support the required exchange rate given underlying economic fundamentals. Soros borrowed pounds sterling and immediately converted them to Deutschmarks and other currencies, creating a massive short position against sterling. Other speculators followed, creating irresistible downward pressure. The Bank of England's futile defense. The Bank of England spent an estimated £27 billion defending sterling on September 16, 1992. Interest rates increased from 10% to 12% to 15% in a single day. Nothing worked. By evening, Chancellor Norman Lamont announced Britain's withdrawal from the ERM. Sterling depreciated 15% immediately. Soros made an estimated $1 billion profit in one day by betting against the British government. The psychological impact Black Wednesday destroyed any remaining illusions about British monetary independence and central bank competence. A private speculator had defeated the combined resources of the British Treasury and Bank of England in direct confrontation. The episode demonstrated that even wealthy nations with sophisticated central banks could not maintain artificial exchange rates against market pressure. Monetary policy credibility, once lost, could not be restored through government intervention. The sterling legacy, lessons for modern central banking. Britain's monetary history provides the template that modern central banks follow worldwide. The techniques pioneered by the Bank of England fractional-reserve banking, government debt monetization, managed currency depreciation, and confidence-based money systems remain the foundation of contemporary monetary policy. The persistent deception. Modern central banks operate using the same fundamental deception William Paterson invented in 1694, creating money from nothing, backing it with government debt, and collecting interest from taxpayers on money that exists only because central banks created it. The Federal Reserve, European Central Bank, Bank of Japan, and other major central banks all follow the Bank of England model. Private ownership or control, government backing, monopoly money creation powers, and taxpayer liability for losses. The inflation tax mechanism. Britain's imperial expansion was financed largely through inflation, creating money to fund government spending while forcing citizens to accept declining purchasing power. Modern central banks use the same mechanism. Quantitative easing, zero interest rate policies, and digital money creation represent sophisticated versions of the monetary expansion that funded British imperial adventures. The costs fall on savers and wage earners, while the benefits flow to governments and connected financial institutions. The confidence game continues. Sterling's decline from global reserve currency to regional medium of exchange demonstrates that monetary confidence, once lost, rarely returns. But new reserve currencies face the same fundamental problem: the temptation to create money from nothing for short-term advantage. The dollar's current dominance reflects American economic and military power rather than superior monetary policy. But American monetary manipulation follows the same patterns that ultimately destroyed sterling credibility: the modern sterling irrelevance and digital transformation. Today, the pound represents less than 5% of central bank reserves. Brexit accelerated sterling's decline while highlighting Britain's continued dependence on financial manipulation. Brexit severed monetary connections to Europe while providing no alternative foundation for sterling credibility. Britain's economy depends on financial services that can relocate easily. Manufacturing declined to less than 10% of GDP. The Bank of England is developing a CBDC as potential solution to sterling's declining relevance. But digital currency faces the same problem as previous. British monetary innovations. Why trust money created by an institution with 300 years of monetary manipulation and eventual failure? Britain's monetary history demonstrates that financial innovation cannot substitute for genuine economic productivity. The pound conquered the world through monetary deception and died through the same mechanism. Every central bank today follows the same path toward the same destination.